following breaking news out of Washington, where the House January 6th committee has postponed tomorrow's hearing.
The panel was expected to hold what would have been their first public hearing in months. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now. Scott, we can guess at some reasons why this might have been postponed. Do you have official word, either why it's been postponed or when it may now take place?
Yeah, we expect a formal statement from the committee explaining this postponement. CBS News confirmed the postponement. The reasons not yet announced, but the fact that the hurricane is likely to be at its most destructive through tomorrow is likely underscoring this decision. It poses a number of challenges for this committee, though, moving forward. There is very little time available between now and midterm election day to get this hearing in and do two things. First of all, have everybody here in Washington, D.C. to stage the hearing. After this week, members of the U.S. House are back home campaigning for re-election. Logistically, the U.S. House is not supposed to be here much between now and November 8th, so there's a logistical issue. There's also an optics issue for the committee. You get too close to Election Day, and you make it too easy for those who are critical of the committee and its work to paint this as a political campaign initiative. So they've already were getting late in the calendar, scheduling a hearing for tomorrow. They're getting very close to Election Day. If they get closer still, they leave themselves open to criticism. So we have to leave open the possibility they can't get this back on the calendar before Election Day. But if they do, it'll be quite a needle to thread.
You know, Scott, committee member Adam Schiff had said that something to look forward or to expect from the hearing were key elements of former President Trump's involvement in overturning the 2020 election. Can you just tell us what can we expect besides that, and if you have heard anything about what those key elements might include?
Yeah, Lilia, that was another issue. They had a lot to jam into this hearing. It was possible this was going to be their finale, their final public hearing, their final public investigative hearing, and they collected so much, so many hundreds of interviews, so many thousands of pieces of paper. They were facing the prospect of having to cram as much possible into the hearing tomorrow, including whatever arguments they have about connections between far-right groups and people in the Trump orbit. We know from a documentarian from Denmark that they had subpoenaed his footage for his documentary on Roger Stone and planned to show some clip, as long as 10 minutes in duration, of Stone in and around Election Day as part of tomorrow's hearing. Clips in which Stone is heard promoting the idea that they should just declare victory no matter what on election night, even before the results come in. That nexus between Roger Stone and accused far-right groups, the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, was going to be a component of tomorrow's hearing, according to this witness who got a subpoena for his video. But that said, the committee hadn't released a witness list. The committee hadn't released a run of show or an agenda for what it expected to present tomorrow, and we were getting pretty close to have not heard those things, which raises the possibility the committee saw this postponement coming, or the possibility of this postponement coming, and didn't want to let much of the cat out of the bag, or they hadn't yet decided on a certain trajectory for this hearing, which made it easier to postpone now that there's a hurricane that's going to coincide with the time on the schedule.
You know, Scott, I want to go back to something that you said, though, before about criticism if it comes too close to the election, about it being political. We've heard that criticism already. People were making that critique of the January 6th committee even before the committee was fully formed in its membership. So is there anything that would prevent them necessarily from having this hearing in the time space, if they can get something on the calendar between now and 6 weeks from now when the elections take place? Or might it happen after, when some of these people, it'll be more solidified that they're not in office?
I wouldn't be surprised if it slides until after Election Day because of the optics here. They may try to get this on the calendar in October. They may endeavor to do that in the coming days. But there is an issue here. I mean, this committee has received criticism, unbridled criticism from Republicans, that it is a political campaign tool of the Democratic Party. Now, the committee has kicked back on that and presented its findings despite that criticism, but they may have a more finely tuned ear to that now, because you really are within 6 weeks of Election Day after today, and that raises the prospect that there's going to be louder criticism fiercer criticism or criticism that sticks more. So they may look to move this till after Election Day. They also may look at the possibility of not having another public hearing, as it were, and lean instead on the written report that they not only are expected to release, but are required to release under the legislation that formed this January 6th panel. So we'll wait over the coming days to see an announcement from this committee, but we know this. From the past few months, they move the goalposts a lot. They set a date, they shift it. They set an expectation, they move it. This is an unprecedented committee. It has no precedent for what it's done logistically or in terms of the content of its hearing, so it tends to change its mind at the 11th hour.
Well, Scott, as we've kept you busy over here talking to us, we're hearing now that the committee has sent a letter and confirmed that it is because of the Hurricane Ian. For whatever other reasons it may be, this is the official line that they're publishing right now.
And two things jump out at me. First of all, one of the 9 members of this panel is from Florida,
right.
Democratic Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, who would need to be tending to her constituents as closely as possible as a hurricane strikes, but also the optics of having a hearing on this investigation as there are images side by side of damage and potential destruction just doesn't look right, wouldn't sit right, and the committee is well aware of that.
Doesn't make sense in terms of priorities. Scott MacFarlane, thank you.